Welcome to Taking Care of Lady Business, where we put the business back in lady business. Hosted by Jennifer Justice, founder and CEO of the Justice Department, a management strategy and law firm that works with female and woke male entrepreneurs, executives, talent, brands, and creatives to build and maximize their wealth, focusing in the areas of tech, consumer product, finance, media, entertainment, and fashion. Jennifer interviews entrepreneurial women who have done it all, who will be sharing their secrets on all things business, especially as a woman. These highly successful women will share strategies and insights, including what not to do and what it takes to win. And now, here's your host, Jennifer Justice.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this very exciting episode of Taking Care of Lady Business, where we're putting the business back into lady business. Today, we have a very exciting guest. I know I say that all the time, but we really do. I mean, everybody's exciting, but this is Cindy Gallop, everyone. And if you don't know Cindy Gallop, you will become obsessed with her immediately. So Cindy is the founder and CEO of a company called Make Love, Not Porn. Welcome, Cindy, to Taking Care of Lady Business.
Thank you, JJ. Thrilled to be here.
So tell us what Make Love, Not Porn is. This very enticing title for everyone, I'm sure. So I'm going to let you tell it in your words.
Sure. So Make Love, Not Porn is pro-sex, pro-porn, pro-knowing the difference. I started it because of my personal experience dating younger men, and we are basically the world's first and only user-generated, human-curated social sex video sharing platform. So we are a very important and necessary complement and counterpoint to porn. If porn is the Hollywood blockbuster movie, Make Love Not Porn is the real world documentary. Mm-hmm. Essentially, we're what Facebook would be if it allowed you to socially, sexually self-express, which it sadly does not. We're a unique window onto the funny, messy, fabulous, loving, comical, hilarious ways we all have sex in the real world. And what we're doing fundamentally is socializing sex and making it easier to talk about. And so we call ourselves the social sex revolution. The revolutionary part is not the sex, it's the social.
Right, exactly, because it's been so dirty and we hide it, which is why it's also fantasized in porn. And I love that you always are super honest about it. It's like, all these young boys who grow up watching porn instead of really being served what a real sexual relationship would be like. And so they think that, people are doing helicopters on their penis, you know what I mean? And it's like, just like...
Exactly. And as I was saying, JJ, I am my own research lab.
Yeah.
Because I'm very open about the fact that I date younger men casually and recreationally. I date a lot of them, or rather used to pre the pandemic. My pandemic pod brought it down to one. But essentially, I see for myself exactly how this plays out in the bedroom, in the real world all the time. And
right.
So, I'm especially well equipped to address it with our amazing videos that basically role model good sexual values and behavior, show you how wonderful, great consensual communicative sex is in the real world, and make all of that aspirational versus what we see in porn and popular culture.
Which is so important. So how does it work?
So basically, come to makelovenotporn.tv, sign up, take out a subscription. They start at $10 a month, very affordable. And you can watch all of these wonderful real world videos. And if you are interested in becoming a Make Love Not Porn star, as we call our contributors, then you can share your own real world sex videos. And the wonderful thing about that, JJ, is that, our Make Love Not Porn stars find that doing that is as transformative for them and their relationships as socially sharing everything else has been for the world at large. And so, a couple months ago, a woman shared her very first solo masturbation video, with many of those, male, female, trans, non-binary. And she said in the narrative for her video, she said, "All my life, I've been told my vulva is ugly. It's too floppy, it's too this, it's too that." And she said, "I don't think it is." And so I decided for the very first time ever, I was going to film myself masturbating, and I'm going to share it here on Make Love Not Porn and see what all of you think. And honestly, our community is so amazing because, within like the first 45 minutes, there were all these comments going, oh my God, you're beautiful. What are they talking about? You are fantastic. We love you. And so she was so moved and affirmed by the responses to her sharing this very intimate act for the first time ever. And that's wonderful to see.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we're supposed to celebrate everybody's differences, right? It's no different sexually, right?
Yeah.
And if you're going to learn, I mean, didn't Billie Eilish just write something about how porn like scarred her?
I, in fact, have an op-ed in The Independent published today responding to that. And actually, the key point I made there was that the issue isn't porn, it's that we don't talk about sex in the real world. Because if we talked about sex, educated about sex openly and honestly, people would then bring real world mindsets to viewing what is simply performative produced entertainment. But I have to tell you, JJ, because Billy absolutely talks as well about unrealistic bodies in porn. There are so many layers of profundity and importance to what we're doing at Make Love Not Porn. One of which is, as you say, we celebrate real world everything. Real world bodies, real world hair, real world penis size, real world breast size. And the reason that's crucial is because you can talk body positivity all you like.
Right.
You can preach self-love till you're blue in the face. At the end of the day, nothing makes us feel great about our own bodies like seeing people who are no one's idea of aspirational body types getting turned on by each other, desiring each other, having an amazing time in bed. Right. Our mantra at Make Love Not Porn is everybody is beautiful when they're having real world sex, and they really are. And that's so important in a world where, as you know, all around us in popular culture, we are told every day that we are not hot and sexually desirable unless we are this skinny, six-pack abs, look like this. And so our members write to us and say, you made me feel better about my own body. One man wrote and said, my girlfriend and I now feel able to be more open and central with each other because you made each of us feel better about our own body.
Well, and it's so important in this younger generation, like kids, tweens, teens, growing up and seeing that, because with social media, right, everything has just, totally like there's so much depression because they feel like they're not adequate. And then when it's all about sexuality, which is what it is, like sexual desire. And so I think it's really important what you do. And, I love that you're doing it. You've been at it for a long time. I just want to quickly go on the site and say what you did before this, because it all keys into what you're doing. And then we're going to get a little bit more into the whole journey of Make Love Not Porn.
No, absolutely. So my background is 35 years working in brand building, marketing, and advertising. That has actually stood me in very good stead as an entrepreneur, because I spent 16 of those years working for the same creative agency, Bartle Bogle Hegarty, BBH, all around the world. I'm here in New York because I came to New York 23 years ago to start up their American office for them, which began as me in a room with a phone, starting an advertising agency in the world's toughest advertising marketplace. But, at BBH, our creative strategy was, we don't sell, we make people want to buy. And so I like to say that I've spent 35 years working in the business of getting people to do things they originally had no intention of doing, which stands me in very good stead as a founder with Make Love Not Porn. And also, as you say, it's been a real battle for 13 years to build and keep Make Love Not Porn alive. I'm about to set out to raise a round of serious funding to build some very exciting new expansion products for Make Love Not Porn. But historically, I've struggled to find investors. And so I have to support myself alongside Make Love Not Porn. And so I work as a consultant and a coach and a public speaker. And the approach I bring to all of that is, I like to work with brands and clients who want to change the game in their particular sector. So you come to me for radical, innovative, groundbreaking, transformative. I don't do status quo. And so I like to sum up my consulting and speaking approach as I like to blow shit up. I'm the Michael Bay of business. And I want to share that with our audience, JJ, because me doing that line is not a bit of whimsy or a bit of creativity, a bit of fun. I do that entirely deliberately because I'm a great believer in be your own filter. So when I characterize what I do in that way, it attracts to me the people who want what I do. It repels the ones who don't. And I want to repel the ones who don't because of the waste of time, effort, and money. And so I recommend to every woman, you know, put yourself out there in terms of, project what you're all about into the world. Be your own filter, because you will find your tribe by doing that.
Yeah.
You will attract to you the people who want what you stand for, and you will keep away the ones who don't, and you want to do that.
Exactly. And so you kind of hit on where I wanted to go from there. I mean, you obviously have an amazing career in brand building. And then, you started something that you were passionate about that has purpose, and something that you had personal experience, which is what women do when they start businesses, right? But you have had, a pretty tough journey as far as like raising money and, banking and all of that. So I want to get into that a little bit, because I know there's a few different layers to that. So tell us about when you first started and trying to get bank accounts and raise money.
Sure. And I think, it's great you're asking me that, JJ, because I think in my journey and what I've done to solve the obstacles I faced, I think the principles apply to anything any of our listeners is doing, actually. So as you say, the one thing I had no idea about when I embarked on building Make Love Not Porn was that I and my team would fight an enormous battle every single day to grow this business. Basically because every piece of business infrastructure any other tech startup gets to take for granted. We can't. The small print always says no adult content. Right. And this is all pervasive across every single area of the business. I can't get funded. I can't get banked. It took me 4 years to find one bank here in America that would allow me to open a business bank account for Make Love Not Porn. Try doing business for 4 years without a business bank account. Yeah. Very difficult. Won't tell you how I did it. Did it in ways I wasn't meant to, but really tough. Biggest operational challenge is payments. PayPal won't work with adult content. Stripe, who make it easy to take credit cards online, won't. Every tech service I need to use to operate my platform, hosting, encoding, encrypting, the terms of service always say no adult content. Even something as simple as sending out membership emails. MailChimp will not work with adult content. We've been rejected by so many email partners until we found SendGrid who would. And to give you some idea of how ridiculous this gets, a couple of years ago, I needed a contract user experience designer. Mm-hmm. I put a perfectly standard job description up on Upwork. 20 minutes later, Upwork took it down and told us we can't advertise jobs there because we are Make Love Not Porn. That's how ludicrous it is. And also, an area of huge frustration, JJ, is that our business growth is also inhibited because we are banned from advertising. Right. We can't advertise on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Reddit, by the way, I ask you, as well as traditional media.
Oh my God.
By the way, I know. And by the way, it's not just us. There's a massively gendered bias here. Any female lens, sexual health and wellness ventures cannot advertise either. Menstruation ventures can't advertise on Facebook. Menopause ventures can't. In the meantime, male sexual health and wellness, erectile dysfunction solutions everywhere. So here's what I've done to try and overcome these obstacles. First of all, what I always say to other entrepreneurs, and what I do myself, is when you have a truly world-changing startup, you have to change the world to fit it, not the other way around. And so for 13 years, I've been parallel pathing two things: working to build Make Love Not Porn and working to change the cultural context around it. Yeah. And so to give an example of one of the things I've done in that respect, about 8 years ago, I decided to deliberately define, pioneer, and champion my own category, sex tech, which was not a thing back then. Yeah. So I literally wrote the definition of sex tech. If you Google sex tech, I'm result one on page one. And sex tech is any form of technology or tech venture designed to innovate, disrupt, and enhance in any area of human sexuality and human sexual experience. I coined the hashtag sex tech. I didn't invent the term, but I'm directly responsible for propagating the hashtag as widely as it's used today. Mm-hmm. And I began speaking at tech conferences all around the world on why the next big thing in tech is disrupting sex. Because I thought at base level, if I just say this loudly enough, often enough, in enough places, people will start to believe it. Mm-hmm. So I basically set out to legitimize my own category, to create a climate of receptivity amongst investors and business partners. And the result today is that sex tech is now an acknowledged, legitimate category. If you Google sex tech now, you'll see a ton of media coverage. You'll see serious research studies, which I Make Love Not Porn are included in, but I can't afford to access, ironically. So as I said, change the world to fit you, not the other way around. And then on the funding front, what I've done, and again, this may be useful for our listeners because you can apply this principle to any category where you need to find the right people.
Right.
So what's frustrating on the funding and investors front is that in the conventional funding world, my biggest obstacle is a social dynamic I call fear of what other people will think.
Yeah.
Which operates around sex, unlike any other area. And
something you definitely don't suffer from.
Exactly. And what's very frustrating is I know that my investors are out there. They absolutely are. They are impossible to find by the usual means because they all have one thing in common. Your willingness to fund Make Love Not Porn is entirely a function of your personal sexual journey. It is a function of your personal lens on sex and sexuality, driven by your own experience, and I have no way to research and target for that.
Yeah.
Not least because sex is the one area where you cannot tell from the outside what anybody thinks on the inside. The people who look like they would totally get it don't. The people who look like total prudes do. And so I put what I'm doing out there all the time. I talk about it across all my social channels. I accept every media interview, and I do that because I have to rely on making synaptic connections that will draw those people to me. Mm-hmm. And the good news is in the past year, that's been happening more and more. Investors have reached out to me out of the blue and said, I saw your post on LinkedIn. I'm intrigued. Tell me more. Right. And so, again, for our listeners, whatever you want to do, absolutely put it out there. I mean, I'm a huge fan of social media in this context because social media makes shit happen. Put it out there, and absolutely be, again, very open, very provocative, very, frank about what you're doing. Because when you do that, there will absolutely be people out there that will connect with and it will draw them to you.
Right. I mean, so many amazing lessons to be learned here. And yes, it is. It's applicable across the board, especially as women in, raising money and seeing. It's like you would think that anyone who went through, teenage years, college, that like had horrible sexual experiences or just didn't feel right, like you would want your children to have a different one to be investing in this, and they're like, look, it's like, for parents in particular, it's like very, it's like not something that any of us look forward to doing and talking to our kids about, but it's necessary because it's happening, and we'd rather happen with guidance and real understanding of what's going on. But also, the other thing is, so the topic is obviously so important, but it's also like this, about investing, like this needs to be much bigger. Like OnlyFans is massive, and it's, so on this journey, I mean, look, you've had all this experience, and on this journey, I mean, part of it is you could have changed the name, right?
Well, do you know, here's the thing about that, JJ. So, 14 years ago, when I had the idea for Make Love Not Porn's original version, a little porn world versus real world PSA site, I went, okay, I need to buy a URL. I need to call this something short, punchy, memorable. Make Love Not War, Make Love Not Porn. That's about as much thought as I put into it. Mm-hmm. Little did I realize that today I own the definitive call to action in this arena, because every day, hundreds of young people hashtag Make Love Not Porn across every social channel and think they're the very first person who ever thought of saying that. And so the benefit, first of all, is that when I say we are Make Love Not Porn, everybody gets it. Right. Instantly. Okay, everyone knows what I'm talking about. And then secondly, here's the other very interesting way in which our name is enormously useful that also demonstrates, JJ, the huge investment opportunity we represent. Because, as I said earlier, we're banned from advertising. And so one of our sources of traffic is organic search. And the fascinating thing about that is that every day, people search for us all around the world without knowing that we exist. And what I mean by that is the top organic search terms that drive people to Make Love Not Porn are make love, not porn, real sex, not porn, make love, not porn, where people don't know there's a business actually called that. Right. One young man told me that he found us when he Googled porn that is not porn. because he was so fed up with everything out there.
Yeah.
He wanted something different. He had no idea what to search for. And when you type in porn that is not porn, you find Make Love Not Porn. And so our name works really well for us in that way. But that gives you some idea of how, with the right level of funding, and by the way, the right level of funding enables us to advertise.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be amazed how quickly those advertising barriers fall when I write them a big enough check.
Right.
So, when I give Facebook $1 million, you bet they're letting me advertise. So you have some sense of how much people know they need what Make Love Not Porn delivers, the documentary versus porn's Hollywood movie.
Yeah. So no. I mean, so basically slow and steady wins the race. Like you created something so much bigger by being true to what this really was, right? The sex tag, the hashtag, like it's really descriptive, and it might be over a number of years, but there's no such thing as an overnight success as much as people think there is. Like Roblox is like now public but has been around forever. Facebook has been around for a very long time.
No. And in my case, JJ, depressingly, the need for Make Love Not Porn only gets greater with every passing year, as Billie Eilish's comments have just demonstrated.
Well, and as we have just seen, while all of these platforms are totally fine bullying people and totally fine with fake news, but they're not fine with something that everybody does all day long from the time that, who knows, how, like they're teenagers, basically.
Yes. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's perfectly acceptable. We have children walking around. They don't just fucking happen. Okay. There's no stork. So,
exactly.
Let's talk about it. All right. So in all of this, and you give such great advice. In fact, one of my quotes I use all the time when people are like, what advice would you give young women? And I always use your quote. If you don't really know what to do or make a decision, just think, what would a straight white man do, and do that. There's a lot of them. You got to follow Cindy, which we'll get at the end. We'll get all of her handles, etc. But, when women are going through this, other than stuff we've already been talking about, like, be authentic, find your tribe, like, what are some tactical things that they can do to not get depressed about, like, how this world treats women versus men in investing?
No, absolutely. So several answers to that, JJ. First of all, and you'll have heard me give this advice before, but I urge women very strongly to bullshit like the men do.
Mm-hmm.
And I deliberately articulate like that. Women, I want you to consciously think to yourself, I am now going to start bullshitting. Okay. Now, I feel very confident telling women to bullshit because no matter how much you think you're bullshitting, you will never ever bullshit at the level men do. When you are doing what you think is bullshitting, all you're doing is you are finally talking about your accomplishments and your talents and your achievements in a way that finally does yourself justice.
Mm-hmm.
So bullshit like the men do, because then you talk up a big vision. Right. Then you really put behind what you're doing the power and the conviction that, whoever your audience is, your consumers, your customers, your clients, your investors, that's how they need to hear you talk about what you're brilliant at, what you're doing, why they should value you. People value you at the value you are seen to put in yourself.
Right.
To those of our listeners who are in a job currently, who want to rise to the top of the corporate ladder, or those of our listeners who want to get a new job, and this next piece of advice applies in all sorts of contexts, but I usually give it when I'm talking to people who want to accelerate their trajectory up the career ladder. So there is one single thing that will propel you into the C-suite quicker than anything else. And it's very simply this. I like to keep things very simple. I'm a big fan of radical simplicity. It's simply this. Understand how your company makes money and recommend ways to make more money.
Mm-hmm.
That is the one thing that will turbocharge your ascent up the career ladder. And as I said, it applies equally to if you are applying for jobs. Same deal. Understand how that company makes money and recommend the ways in which you can help them make more money. There is nobody who will not take that conversation.
Right. I mean, so two things that women struggle with. We got to just like turn it, like know consciously. It's great to like understand that as women, as a gender, we often don't talk about our accomplishments. I have 8-year-old twins, a boy and a girl. You know, when they were in soccer season, they would play back to back. She'd play on the girls' team, he'd play on a boys' team. She would win. We'd go, how, you know, how did you do? How do you think you did? Oh, okay. His team would lose. How'd you do? We were amazing. This happened like a month and a half ago.
Yes.
I'm just like, this is a difference, right?
Yeah.
To your first point, like if you think you're bragging, you're probably just saying your actual accomplishments.
Exactly.
So just do it. Right. And the second thing is a lot of women tend to weigh toward money. Money is scary. It's yucky. It's daunting. There's all these weird terms, which is one of the reasons why I started this podcast, is so we can talk about the weird terms, because I had it happen to me with dry powder, which is just a word for extra money. It's so stupid. I don't even know where it came from. Anyway, so stop using these ridiculous terms. But it's also like, you know, if you are in a job that you don't have a P&L, maybe it's marketing, maybe it's, you know, PR, maybe it's HR. And then all of a sudden you get in the C-suite and you're sitting in these C-suite meetings and they're talking about a P&L and you're like, I have no idea what that means, you know, and you can't ask a man because you feel stupid, and you will look and they will judge you for the most part and be like, oh God, how does she not know that? Well, in the meantime, they've been studying this since they got out of college, you know? So, and it's, you know, educating yourself, finding that person, finding your tribe, people who will help you and not judge you for it. Those are all like very amazing words of wisdom and sage advice, and gifts that keep on giving if you can turn it around and do that for yourself.
Yeah, and also I want to, and again, you've heard me say this before, but on the subject of money, you know, I want every woman to unashamedly set out to make an absolute goddamn fucking shit ton of money.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I very deliberately articulate like that. I'm very semantically precise. I'm an English major. I articulate like that because that is how much money I want all of us to make. And, you know, I want every listener to this podcast to make that much money, not just for you, although we want that too, but also because when you make an absolute goddamn fucking shit ton of money, you can use that money to fund other women, to help other women, to support other women, to donate to other women. You know, I mean, this entire pandemic would have been so different if money had been in the hands of women who would have deployed it in ways that men did not to help all of us. We need to build our own financial ecosystem because the white male one isn't working for us.
Right.
And so, you know, and you can start making an absolute goddamn fucking shit ton of money from the moment you get your first job. Or, I mean, your first vacation job at school, or, you know, whatever. And so again, you know, this, but what I say to women is the amount you ask for is always the highest amount you can say out loud without actually bursting out laughing. And I've been giving women that advice for decades, literally. And honestly, every week I hear from women, you know, they message me through my social channels, they email me, and they say, Cindy, I did it and it worked.
Yeah.
It works.
Yeah. I mean, ask for it and add 20%, you know what I mean? Whatever it is, like, but until you ask for it, if you don't ask for it, you're not going to get it. Right. And if people are negotiating with you already, they want you to have the job and you'll land somewhere. Yeah. No, I agree. And if you can, and you can afford it, then hire people to negotiate for you, you know, because that takes you out of the equation and you can maintain your good cop status. And like, but you should definitely be, you know, consulting other women, finding your tribe, talking about this with them for sure. Because I think we all should make a shit, how do you say it? A shit ton?
An absolute goddamn fucking shit ton of money.
Yes, exactly. We all need to make that amazing. And so when you are seeing the, like, you know, women negotiate for these things, there's other advice I've heard you talk about too, when you're talking to your boss, which I think is so important about, I think you said how there's prejudice against a woman asking for money. Do you know what I'm talking about?
So a couple of pieces of advice for women on that. The first is that a negotiation is a business conversation like any other business conversation. And so you should never feel nervous about it, because all you are doing is demonstrating the fabulous business skills they hired you for in the first place.
Right.
You know, they want to know you're a tough negotiator with vendors and suppliers and clients and customers. So, you know, you absolutely want to be a tough negotiator on your own behalf. And I recommend to women, if you feel that you are coming up against resistance because you're a woman, then absolutely call it out. Say, and by the way, I'm demonstrating, the approach to negotiation here. That is what you pay me to do with all of our vendor suppliers, whatever your particular job spec is. Reference the fact that you are proving that you are very good at doing what is already part of your job. The other thing that I recommend women to do in this context is, consider a preemptive strike.
Right.
And what that means is, I use the example of, a woman friend of mine, this is many years ago now, but I've always loved this. So she was interviewing for a very big job that she very much wanted. And she'd been through all the interviews, it was all looking good. And she knew that the next meeting was going to be a salary negotiation. Okay, because I think they put a number on the table and she wasn't happy with it. So, and again, by the way, this is pre-pandemic, way back. So all of this is happening IRL in actual meetings. And at the time, and I remember this because in my women's networks we were all discussing this, there was a survey out that demonstrated, precisely what you just spoke to, which is that, when men negotiate, everyone thinks they're a strong, confident go-getter. When women negotiate, people like them less. And that's both men and women. Men and women like us less when we negotiate. So my friend basically went into this meeting and she said, so just before we, begin, I'd like to just put something on the table. I'm about to begin negotiating. And studies have shown that the moment women start negotiating, people like them less. So I thought I'd just put that fact on the table, and now let's go. And it was genius because everyone suddenly went, oh my God, got to make sure that we are really kind of even-handed with this negotiation. She did this wonderful preemptive strike that basically made everyone super keen to demonstrate how impartial they were, and she got what she wanted.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, everyone can say it, but those are all like obviously amazing pieces of advice. And I think it's like, as we were talking about in the beginning before we started recording, it's like we use our experience and hopefully this will help women not take as long to get where we were, where we are now. It's like, do it faster, confront the situation, use our examples and what to do and what not to do, and go get it. And then let us know, and then fund Make Love Not Porn with all the money that you got.
Absolutely. Yes.
No, it's true. It's true. By the way, if those of you who are not actually watching, Cindy is wearing a Make Love Not Porn sweatshirt by Lingua Franca, our other friend. So she is a true advocate. She speaks her language. She walks the talk, all of that stuff.
And I can tell you, JJ, I mean, this sweater, and I also have Make Love and Porn t-shirts, our own merch, but they're great conversation starters.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Ooh, what's that about? And then I get to tell them all about us.
I have no doubt that you have many great conversation starters wherever you go.
Yeah. Yum.
I love it. All right. So we're coming to the end of our time here, unfortunately, because everyone I know can tell that they could learn a lot from Cindy. I know that I do on a daily basis. But one thing I always ask everyone at the very end is, what is the worst advice you've ever received?
Sure. So it's very easy to answer that. And I want every woman listening to take this to heart as well. The worst advice I ever received was when I met with a VC, a venture capitalist investor, about, in fact, the startup, my startup before Make Love Not Porn, which was called If We Ran the World, which I had to back burner when Make Love Not Porn blew up. But anyway, so I was talking to him about If We Ran the World, and he said to me, Cindy, your problem is you're thinking too big. You should be thinking really small. That was the worst advice I ever received. Women, think big. Okay. And I do just want to share with our audience the best advice I ever received. And I can't remember who said this to me, but it was very simply, get more sleep. And that is the best business advice I've ever received.
Yes, well, because you can think a lot more clearly. Oh my God, amazing. Thank you so much, Cindy. How does everybody find you? So
I'm at Cindy Gallop on Twitter and Instagram. You can find me on Facebook, cindy.gallop, on LinkedIn. And also you can find at Make Love Not Porn on Twitter and Instagram, and our Facebook page is MLNPTV, and of course our website is makelovenotporn.tv.
Everyone go out there and be some make love, not porn stars.
Exactly.
There we go. A whole new generation starting today. Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you everybody for tuning in and listening to this amazing episode with Cindy. Until next time, I'm Jennifer Justice.